and have made the most effort in making the charity week a success. So the point being that when you come to a point of enjoyment, a point of inviting people, if you put effort into that thing, you will enjoy it the most. So let me try and illustrate that with an example. Yesterday, obviously, was the day of Eid. Who amongst you actually cooked food yourselves with your own hands on the day of Eid? Brothers and sisters, who actually did cooking on the day of Eid? Please don't be shy, raise your hand. I want to know who actually cooked on the day of Eid. Come on, somebody must have cooked. They can't want to take out food. Somebody must have cooked something on Eid. I know it's a modern generation, but, come on. I mean, I didn't. It's okay, but I'm married. My wife did. And, I know it's not quite right, but that's the way it goes. Who cooked on Eid? Sister, did nobody cook on Eid? Did none of you cook?
Stop.
You did, yeah? Okay, good. A few sisters said, brothers, did anybody cook on Eid? Okay, good. Excellent. Did you invite anybody around to your house to share with you, or was it all kind of eaten by yourself? You invited people.
No.
Are the people whom you invited here? Nobody's here. Okay. So the brother over there, he cooked on Eid. Okay, alhamdulillah, well done. Okay. The fact that you cooked, the people whom you invited, did they comment on your food? Okay. But they may well have, if they commented on your food, they appreciated your cooking, you would have felt better the fact that you cooked it yourself. If you brought it in or something, someone said the food's nice, well, okay, the takeaway gets the credit. But if you yourself have put credit and put your own time, your own effort, and your own money into something, it feels better when somebody appreciates it. It's a common fact, isn't it? So when you come to the day of Eid, if you have put effort in the first 10 days of Hajj, if you have fasted the day of Arafah, if you have taken part in the Qurbani, if you have given money and you made this first 10 days special for you, the day of Eid is equally special. When you arrive today at the final event of the charity week, if you actually helped arrange the charity week, you did some of the running around, when you come to the end and you come to celebrate that day, you tend to enjoy it more. So I hope you put a lot of effort into those first 10 days, and I hope you put a lot of effort into the charity week. And Allah says in the Quran, in Surah Ar-Rahman, over and over again, which of the favours of your Lord will you deny? Over and over again, Allah asks you, which of the favours of your Lord will you deny? Allah gives us many favours. Favours like Ramadan, like Hajj, like the month of Shaban, like 10 days of Shaban. These are all favours. Allah gave you the opportunity to serve Him by trying to raise money for the poor. Whether you took that opportunity or not was down to you, but Allah gave you a favour, okay? And we should be thankful for the favours of Allah. The second point I want to make is that what's the whole theme behind this Eid and the days leading up to it? What's the overall theme behind these first 10 days? What's the overall theme, would you say? I know Brother Anas mentioned it in your khutbah because we had a discussion a few minutes ago, so you can't answer the question. Somebody else tell me. The Eid al-Fitr, Ramadan, is all about the worship of Allah. Eid al-Adha, the name gives it away as well. Eid al-Nahr, what's it all about? What's it all about? Sacrifice. Excellent. It's about sacrifice, isn't it? This whole Eid is about sacrifice. And when you look at the example of our father, Ibrahim alayhi salam, his whole life was about sacrifice. It's not very easy to argue with your parents, is it? It's not very easy. Even when you're in the right, to try and convince your dad that you're right about something when he's telling you you're wrong is very hard. Ibrahim alayhi salam, when you're smiling, even if he's right and you're wrong, it's still very hard to tell him. Anyway, the point being, with Ibrahim alayhi salam, he argued, obviously he was in the right with his father, and his father said, I'm going to stone you to death. He didn't give up on his position. He sacrificed at the risk of his life with arguing with his father. With his own tribe, he stood up amongst all of his people, and he argued with every one of them. They got him, and they tried him, they threw him into the fire. It didn't prevent him from standing up to what he thought he was right. One of the greatest forms of jihad, we're told in the hadith, is to speak up against an oppressive ruler. He went to a king. Imagine there's a king here, and everybody is his subject. He argued with that king about where and whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was. This is a great sacrifice on his part. He had to sacrifice when he took his wife and his son to Mecca. And Mecca was described as a very hot place, a very difficult place. There was not all the buildings, anything like this. He had to leave his wife and his baby child. Can you imagine? You go to the middle of a desert, you leave your wife and you turn away and you walk away. Who would do that? Who would do that? Very few people. He did that sacrifice for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Years later, he hasn't seen his son for many years. He hugs and he greets his son, wants to spend time with him. He gets the command from Allah, now you have to sacrifice your son. He's missed him for so long. He takes a knife to sacrifice his son. Allah replaces it. The point being, look at the sacrifice that Prophet Ibrahim a.s. made for Allah. What sacrifices are we making for our religion? What sacrifices do we make? Even when it comes to the basics of Islam, like prayer, often we find an excuse. No, I can't pray, I'm at work, I find some excuse. When it comes to going on the Hajj, how many people do we know? They reach old age and they don't go on Hajj. Right till the end of their life. They can go on holiday, they can visit relatives, they can go to weddings in other parts of the world. But when it comes to the Hajj, they leave it right to the end of their lives. Maybe death or illness will overtake them. Where's the sacrifice for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Are you sacrificing in your religion? You have to ask yourself this question. When you say, I submit to Allah, it means you're submitting to His commands. So you have to sacrifice your time and your money. Are you doing that? Are we sacrificing the path of Allah? And I want to give you an example of an individual who we might have seen in the news recently who really sacrificed in the path of Allah. Did anyone catch the news last week of two Hujjaj, two people who went to do Hajj from the UK who died whilst doing Hajj, or on the journey to Hajj? Did anybody catch that item of news? Two people from the UK, from Birmingham, they went to do Hajj and they died whilst on the journey to Hajj. Yeah, a few people nodding. Okay. Let me elaborate a little bit more about one of those two people. So I knew they were husband and wife couple. I knew the husband, I didn't know him well, but I'd seen him around because he's quite a notable person. This man was a revert to Islam. So he accepted Islam going back maybe 30 years ago. Okay? So maybe in his 20s he accepted Islam. He went and he studied in the Islamic University of Medina, a very prestigious Islamic university. He came out and he spent a great deal of his life translating books from Arabic to English. Some of the very well-known books, okay, he translated from Arabic to English. So he spent his whole life in the deen, sacrificing for Allah. And he was known for his excellent manners, very quiet man, very shy, very well-mannered. And he would always, for example, walk on Jummah. He used to live 2-3 miles away from the mosque. He would always walk to the mosque on Jummah. Even though people would stop saying, do you want a lift? No, I'd rather walk. Because he wanted to get the reward of walking to the mosque, particularly in Jummah. This is the kind of life he led. A life of sacrifice. Okay? A life of sacrifice in the path of Allah. Look at the way in which he died. He died on the bus from Jeddah to Mecca. Died on that small bus journey from Jeddah to Mecca. He was in Ihram when he died. He was doing Labbaik, Allahumma Labbaik, whilst on his way to the Umrah. He was doing Talbiyah. He was praising Allah when he died. Okay, this is the way he died. Rasulullah said that if a person dies in a state of Ihram, wash him with water and lotus. Okay? Cover him in those two cloths which he was wearing, and on Yawm al-Qiyamah, he will be raised up, praising Allah, saying those same words of Labbaik, Allahumma Labbaik. This is the way in which the Prophet ﷺ said a man who dies in this condition will be resurrected in Yawm al-Qiyamah. This is the way in which he died. Although he died in Jeddah, they did his janazah for him in Makkah, in Masjid al-Haram. 2 million people prayed in his janazah. 2 million people prayed in his janazah. Just look at for a second a man, a young man, who spends his youth in disbelief, in kufr, away from Allah totally and entirely. He accepts Islam, he sacrifices in the path of Allah, and look how Allah takes him in his final time. How will Allah take me and you in our final time? What will people say about us? How will people know and how will people remember us? No one will remember what car you drove. Guarantee you. A few weeks or months after you die, no one will remember what car you drove. No one will remember about your house because others will have inherited it. But what people will remember, yeah, he translated that book. Yeah, he has such good manners. Yeah, he used to do this, he used to do that for the sake of it. People remember these things about you. What will your legacy be? That's what I ask you. What will your legacy be? And we don't all have to be scholars of Islam. I'll narrate one hadith to you about the Prophet ﷺ. He's with his companions and he asks them, who amongst you woke up this morning with the intention of fasting? Abu Bakr said, I did. He says, who amongst you visited the sick? Abu Bakr said, I did. He said, who amongst you fed a poor person? Abu Bakr said, I did. He said, who amongst you followed a janazah, a funeral procession? Abu Bakr said, I did. Rasulullah said, these characteristics don't come together in a person except that person will be a man of Jannah or a person of Jannah. They're simple things, aren't they? Attending a janazah prayer, fasting, feeding a poor person. All of these are simple things. Are we doing these kind of simple things in our daily lives? Moving on from sacrifice, I want to comment on Hajj or on the Kaaba in particular. In its most basic of forms, what is the Kaaba? In its most, strip away the hotels and all the razzmatazz around it. In its most basic form, what is the Kaaba? And it's just the Kaaba. What is the Kaaba in its most basic of forms? Cube, yeah, that's right. Cube-back structure. Anything else? Can you add anything more to it?
The house of Allah.
House of Allah, that's fine. Anything more about the structure of the building?
Bricks.
Sorry. Excellent. Brick. One more thing perhaps you could add to brick. It's a cube, it's House of Allah, yeah, but it's just a structure. One more thing, that's it. It's a cube made of bricks.
Apparently it was white before sins of man turned it black.
Yeah, I think more about the stone that is, but that's fine. But and the best what you can say, it's got a cloth over it. That's all it is. It's just bricks, isn't it? Just breeze blocks. I've seen a picture of it when they've actually got the cover. It literally is just breeze blocks that you build a building with, and it's got a black cover of it. That's all in its most basic form the Kaaba is. Who amongst you wants to go to Hajj next year if you could afford it? Everybody, it's no-brainer. Look at the pull of the Kaaba. The pull of the Kaaba is amazing. All these places, holiday resorts, destinations, Spain, Italy, Maldives Islands, Seychelles, and all of these kind of places, could put them all on one side and put the Kaaba on the other. They don't compare with one another. Yet what is the Kaaba? There's no beach, but it's nothing except just building like this. Yet every Muslim wants to go to the Kaaba. Each year millions want to go, millions have to be turned away. Billions have gone. People have spent weeks and months going on this journey of a lifetime. If it wasn't divine, how else could it be that millions would go there? Could simply a man have come up, Muhammad Sallallahu built this thing, and millions of people 1400 years later want to go on this journey of a lifetime? No, it's a divine place built by the prophets for the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's incomparable to anything on the face of the earth. It truly is incomparable when you stop and when you think about the Kaaba and the way in which it amazingly pulls people towards it. And the final point I want to make is to link charity and the whole concept of Hajj and Eid. Who ate meat yesterday? You know, I probably ask more questions than I answer sometimes, but who ate meat yesterday? Yes, true to form, as Muslims we love our meat, or Pakistani we just love our meat. I don't think we can have a meal, especially on Eid day, without meat. But alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed us with meat. But in many societies, meat is a scarcity, isn't it? If you go to many parts of Africa, parts of Asia, you were to ask the same question, many people would not have tasted meat for days or weeks or even months. And even if they did eat meat, it would just have been a little bit of meat, lots of water, shared out amongst a whole family of people. That would have been their lives. That's the reality for many millions of people today. But look again at the beauty of Islam and the beauty of Eidul Adha, when millions of animals will be sacrificed and hundreds of millions of kilograms of meat will be given to the poor who may not have tasted meat for weeks and months. Can you link now between the Hajj and the Eid and the charity? because Islam and charity go hand in hand together. So although we sometimes don't see the link, charity is the backbone of Islam. And what you've done this week is a very important and noble duty of fulfilling one of your obligations of Islam. And every little bit of effort that you made will have been multiplied many times over. Because as we know, these first 10 days of the month of Hajj were the best 10 days to do good deeds. So if we did the best of deeds, inshallah, may Allah accept it from all of us. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah wa bihamdihi.